Okay, we got Sister Latisha. She just raised her hand there.
Yeah.
I'm sure that she got a question. Sister, go ahead.
Hello. Yes, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So my question is, I've been doing a lot of research, thanks to Monty. Appreciate it. And what I've been learning is kind of what you were talking about the forced religion of the oppressor. So it's been very interesting to find out, to figure out, to research what our natural beliefs were. It's even more interesting to research how we got to where we are. I don't want to go deep into it because I'm still figuring things out, and I know that we all are. My question is, and this doesn't necessarily have to be for the professor, this question can be for anybody. What I've been struggling with is the challenge of figuring out how do we overcome those things that we were taught. It's very difficult myself. I'm an ordained minister. Have I always known that there was something more? Absolutely. So I've been a rebel in my since I was young. So to be able to add these things to what I feel like I already knew is amazing. But how do we bring in others without that fear? Or how do we break that fear? How do we overcome that fear? How do we, I guess, slowly introduce them to what we've learned without being so aggressive and so overwhelming that we scare them away? That's my question.
Yeah, I think that where there is a fear, there is ignorance. It is by knowledge that you can overcome fear. If you use the right words, if you give them the right arguments, I think that everyone can understood. And if someone have another position, another conception of things, let him explain and let him prove that what he is saying is true. I have thought about those societies. I said that no jails, no prisons in our societies. And the kind of system we have. If someone have an example of the contrary, he can present and we can discuss. You see, so many things have been written, many things have been said about Africa, about humans, about Africans, about our color, about everything in Africa is said by others. We have to question all this. We cannot accept it for granted. It is the first step. I think for the researcher, for intellectual people, we have to question everything. I don't know if I have understand well the questions yet, but Mr. Monkam, if you can maybe read,
Bring the question back again.
Yeah.
Brother Monte, you got the question correctly, yeah?
Yeah, so pretty much so brother, so what she's saying, what she's really asking, right? Yes, she is on that journey, but she has people around her
Right.
who sees her way of thinking as quote unquote crazy.
Yeah.
And she is trying to enlighten these people with the knowledge that she gets based on the questionings and her findings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But she's asking, is there any way to kind of still bring them into kind of think without making them fear, without making them run away?
Yeah.
Right. So do you have any advice to how she must approach those people?
Yeah.
Right. I think that's what she's asking. Now, if I may give you an answer, Letitia, if I may give you an answer is, I mean, at the end of the day, I know sometimes in the passion we can be passionate, and sometimes we might raise our voice. I think we need to work on us first.
Yeah.
When you go across these kind of people who are completely ignorant, that because don't get me wrong, we are all ignorant of something. Nobody can say he knows everything, right? But when you go among people who are completely still in that word where it's completely lies that they still operate on, now you come with some new knowledge that they've never heard since they were born. So if you come with that with a passion and raising your voice and all things, of course, it's like a blind person. Somebody was blind, close your eye actually for like maybe 5 hours, and suddenly go in the sun. You open your eye right away. You might get blind. Yes, if you stay for a while with your eye closed and you go in the light and you suddenly open your eye, you better be careful because the sudden change, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
We must find a way to tone our voice sometime, you know, and to present them only facts
Yeah.
and not try to convince them on the spot. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
I don't try to convince them on the spot. They can be repulsive as far as no one to hear what I have to say. All I would say is say what I have to say and leave. Trust me, they might act like they didn't want to listen to what you say, but when they're gonna go home, it's gonna resonate
Yeah.
for some of them.
Yeah.
And just leave it like that. I don't think there is a formula as far as me. I don't think there's a formula to kind of not scare them away because they're always gonna think you crazy. You tell somebody that, you know, um, African are the original builders. What? Since he was in kindergarten, he was told that we a bunch of people who just good at playing with monkeys. Like we never created anything. As a matter of fact, we don't even have any history.
Yeah.
He's been told that since he was in kindergarten. Now you come and tell him he's 35, he's 40, he's 50.
Yeah.
You tell him that African built everything before everybody. He thinks you're crazy.
Yeah.
But now you, when that person think you're crazy, you now with the knowledge, you might be like, oh, are you crazy too?
Yeah.
No. What I do is, okay, but I'm just gonna keep talking facts. Just keep giving facts if he's willing to listen. Just giving facts. Now he might say, "Oh, this is crazy." Okay, I don't care. I just give it, and then when I stop, I stop. But we must not try to force them to listen. That's what I always say. I only go after those who are willing to actually listen to what I have to say, or those who question. If somebody refuses to be enlightened, just leave the person there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I think. So, Latisha, I don't know if you got anything from what we say, or you have anything else to say.
And Brother Monte and Sister Letitia and Professor Amadou, if I can just kind of intercede, what I heard Sister Letitia say, and I could be wrong, but what I heard says that, so when we learn all these great things about our African culture, these are things that us born in America, speaking for myself, these are things that we were never taught. When you mentioned where did this lie come from, the Africans sold Africans into slavery, I can tell you that from high school, I was taught that in my high school history class. I can say that when I went to college, my white college professor told me that same thing, right? And so and then even when you get into Christianity and you get into Islam, you get into these religions, like I talked to Brother Munkam and Brother Monte for like 2 hours the other day, and they were, just giving me basic breakdowns of African, spiritual beliefs. I was asking about, the roles of the ancestors and what they play in our lives. These are things me born as a Christian in America, we never talked about. So we're associating ancestors with, witchcraft, devil worshiping. You're going to go to hell for doing these things. But what you guys are educating me on is that this is in our DNA. This is our heritage. So when Sister Letitia's talking about that fear, I think it's the fear of allowing yourself to fully submerge yourself into your original culture, but you have this huge mental barrier, this huge chain, this, stemming from Christianity, stemming from our, indoctrination that won't allow you to. So, that's what I hear from her, saying, how can I get over that fear of all my life I've been told, this stuff is evil. But I noticed Professor Amadou said something that I wrote down. He said, it is through knowledge that we overcome ignorance. and that fear is really based on that ignorance. So, you know, you pretty much answered my question of how to overcome that fear then, Professor. If you could just speak a little bit on that, sir.
Give me a second before you speak, because I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I'm not afraid at all. So the question was not for me. You know what how they say, asking for a friend, literally asking for a friend. I've never had an issue researching and gaining my own understanding of things. So where I am completely comfortable. I am unafraid of who we are. Yes, just like you, I was taught all those things. I was taught that it was witchcraft, that it was evil, that it was wicked, that we was going to hell, that everything that had anything to do with African ancestry was sending us straight to hell. And that anything that had to do with me talking to my grandmother who passed away was just lunacy. I know who I am. I just needed the confirmation, and I needed the facts to back it up. And so now that I have those things, what I don't want to do is I don't want to be one of those people who come, and I've never been one of these people who come and push information down people's throats. And I'll give an example. We have the group who call themselves Hebrew Israelites. And in my opinion, they are over the top and entirely too much. And their approach scares people away. Now, while they may have some truth to what they are teaching, they have people that will run to the hills because they will beat you over the head and make you feel the same way that you felt when you were considered a Christian. They will condemn you to hell as well. So my question is more like Monty was saying, how do we help to confront and help conquer those fears that people like ourselves have already conquered? What is the easy approach? And I think Monty answered the question really well when he said he just kind of gives it to them and lets it resonate and lets them figure it out as they go. I'm understanding on my journey. Even like I said, I'm an ordained minister, so I preach. And what I've been doing is I've been adding what I've learned into it, not just scripture, but spirit. So that spoon feeding effect is probably what I'm going to have to continue to do. And I'm okay with that if that's what has to happen. I know a lot of times we want people to just know now, take it, get the truth now. But with something like this, we can't. And I'm learning that I have to complete my journey. I have to finish what I've started. And what I'm hoping and what my prayer is that once people begin to see how I'm walking, that they'll begin to ask me questions as opposed to me always having to pose questions or give them information. But I also know that I start in my home. I have to start with my own children. I have to start with my own family as well. So that's where I'm at. Clear that up, because you don't start, but what you don't know is I ain't scared of nothing. So I believe that's why Spirit chose me, because I ain't scared of none of these people. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do regardless. And that's it.
Right. And I think I was more, and that fear aspect, I think I was more speaking for myself as well. I understand where you're at in your journey. I think I was more speaking for myself as me. Hopefully I can get to where you are, but I guess speaking for myself, I do feel this huge barrier from what I've been indoctrinated and taught with, that's stopping me from fully submersing myself into, you know, I took a DNA test. It said my maternal ancestry is traced to Bamileke. So, you know, whatever the traditions that my people were, that's what my people are, that's what I would want to do. But what my ancestors here in America have been taught and passed down and was literally being beaten into them, you know, that's also a part of me too, which I don't want. But I guess that was my question. How can I get over that fear for myself to fully submerge myself into, you know, the African culture that's in my DNA?
What I have to add is that to say that as a lecturer in history, I know all the books I use to teach history, I have to question them. And for my children, what I have to make them know is to discuss whether what myself I am teaching them. They have to think by themselves. They have to form their own mindset. It is very, very important. It is not a religion. It is not an ideology, but all books you have to read in history are constructions, constructed by the authors. Question the authors. What are the intentions? What are the goals? What are the targets? What did they want to teach or to make order? I can take an example. When I have a lecture on colonization, you know that German colonized Cameroon, French colonized Cameroon, and there are some chapters where they talk about what the colonizers do. So some kind of presenting the realizations of the colonizers. So when you talk about German period, you have students who are doing comparison between German period, French period, English period, and so on. But if you question, Germans are the first to create the railways in Cameroon. Yes, but for a person who question it, he can understand that the link, the line, the railway they built start in the ports of Douala to the plantations of the Mont Cameroon. What is the purpose? It is to evacuate products from the plantation to the coast where you have the ships ready to take to Germany. It is not because they want Cameroonian to travel by train. You see, so when they create hospitals, it is not because they want Cameroonians feel very healthy, but because they realize that they cannot have labor without fighting malaria, without fighting yellow fever, and so on. They are doing it for their sake, for their interest. It is not for the interest of Cameroonians. You see, and in the historical books, you cannot find it. They tell you Germans created a railway road from the coastal area to the plantation of Mount Cameroon. They open roads, they open hospitals. You see, so all is in the perspective. If in the questions you ask yourself, you ask for what is done. And the purpose of colonization is not to bring health or development and so on to those who are colonized. It is to exploit. It is a system of exploitation. All what they mean when they create schools is to have people, labors, is to transmit their orders, their directives to the people. It is to make the directive understood. It is not because they want to form intellectuals, but someone who didn't know, oh, they help us. They have created hospitals. They have created railways. They have created schools. You see, so if you didn't question it, you cannot understand. The system is to exploit. The ideology, when Westerners quit their continent to come to Africa, it is for their interest. It is not for the interest of Africans. They occupy them, they exploit them, and all the systems they put in place is to satisfy their interests. If you didn't understand it, you can teach history, we can read the same book, but we cannot understand the same process. And that is the way. So make people understand and question what they read by themselves. I can give a last example. When Sheikh Anta Diop read about Egypt, Sheikh Anta Diop is not historian. but today he is considered as the most important historian in Africa. Sheikh Anta Diop is physician. He is a chemist. Sheikh Anta Diop have written a treaty in nuclear treaty, but today nobody knows about it. He uses his scientific knowledge in his laboratory he created in Dakar at IFAN to prove history. He proved that those pharaohs are blacks. All Western specialists of Egypt have refused to accept it. But he convinced them by science, took a part of that mummies kept in Egypt, a piece of skin, and with the melanin contained in that in their skin, he have brought the difference between a white skin and a black skin. So scientifically proven. To convince the scientific community in 1974 with the UNESCO, and UNESCO engaged a very gigantic project of rewriting African history. The first volume was directed by Sheikh Anta Diop, and to write about Egypt, ancient African ancient history, he asked UNESCO to convoke an international conference, the Cairo 1974 colloquium. He was alone in front of all the specialists of Egypt from Europe, from America.
I think he was with Professor the Congolese.
Yes, the only one he asked, Obenga, was there just to give him documents. Obenga is not there to discuss. Theophile Obenga was the only one he asked with him is Theophile Obenga of nationalist Congolese, a philosopher from Congolese nationality, just to give him his documents. And he faces all the Egypt specialists in the room. And at the end, he convinced them that Egyptian history is black history, that they have falsified this history, and he made them understand. And all the historians agreed that it is a black history made by blacks, and it is an African civilization. You see,
yes, Professor.
Are powerful. You cannot be afraid to be alone, or to face the whole world. You cannot.
So what's actually important during that conference in Cairo, right, was that Professor Sheikh Anta Diop, after he proved to all the scholars, there were a bunch of scholars from the US, UK, Egypt, what's called right now Egypt, France, all those scholars, right, who pretend to be Egyptologist, right? So he convinced them that black people actually built the pyramid. But then it was a second argument that they were saying that, yes, black people built it, but they were slaves.
Yeah.
He said, okay, so if you're saying that they were slaves, I challenge you.
Yeah.
Can you guys in a room say slave in Medjugorje?
Yeah.
Medjugorje is an ancient Egyptian language.
Yeah.
Even until now, 2021, nobody was able to say slave in Medjugorje.
No, that's
where the conversation ended. Like so this is what I say. A lot of our answers is in our traditional, mother tongue, and that's why we need to also bring those back, because now we use a European-based kind of way of communicating, and it's a lot of word and wisdom that's lost in the translation, right? So it's always good to be able to bring them back to see how even the way of thinking is different. Now, brother Justin, you say something. To address one of your questions, right? What I would say is, okay, do you know why a baby Do you know why a baby cries as soon as a baby comes out of the mother of the womb of the mother? We all went through it, right? We all have mothers here. We all come to the womb of a mother. So as soon as we came out right away, why do we cry right away? Do you know why? Have you ever questioned?
I would say because he's afraid.
Okay, so it's not really being fair, but it's in comfort. The baby, we were in that vessels. I call that a spaceship because the womb of a woman in African tradition, especially in the Bamileke, the womb of woman is secret. It's like a spaceship. It's where the spirit of your ancestor come back. That's why it's a secret place for women. Now, in that year, and you there for 9 months, right? And in there, you have a particular relationship with your mother. This is why our relationship with our mother is always unique. Yeah. Not to put away the fathers, we are all fathers, but what I'm saying is our mothers are always unique. Absolutely. Now, it starts since in the womb, okay? Now, that unique relationship that you have with her in there, she gives you all the comfort. In there, she is your God. Yeah. This is why for a baby, from the age 0 to almost 5 to 7 years old, your first God is your mother. Yeah. So, but it starts in her womb. Now, she gives you all the comfort and all the protection in the womb. But now you out of that womb, suddenly, it is a transition. It's a sudden transition. And then now the baby feels uncomfortable. Knowledge will do the same to you. Knowledge will do the same to you. That's what I was telling you the other day. Take it slow. Take it slowly. Don't you see, learning the lies, it's also a process that's not easy because I went through it. I went through it 7 years ago. And then little by little, I was gradually, unfolding and moving up into my knowledge. Now, since it's something that's new to you, all I'm gonna say is don't be afraid. Just go slowly. It's going to be things where that you're gonna question. It is not because we telling you stuff that you never heard that is necessarily true. You must not believe what we're telling you. That's why I'm telling you, don't believe what we say. Challenge us. Yeah. We say something, go ahead, do your own research and come and challenge us. Yeah. Right? That's the only way you can comfortably get that knowledge and also be confident talking about it out there. Right? Now, I might have a level of confidence talking about it when I talk about African spirituality because I practice it, right? From what was passed down to me from my mother or my father, right? But for you to start knowing, to start having this knowledge, that's a totally different concept than organized religion. It's going to be I would say, it's a journey. But in that journey, it's going to be a lot of uncertainty, and you're going to have doubts. It's going to be doubt. It's going to be complete conflicting information. But that's all right. That is a path of knowledge. At some point, you need to feel uncomfortable. You need to have doubt. But it is in that doubt, with your confidence, that you're finally going to find the answer. That's all I can tell you. I can say. Now, I have no formula to tell you, but that strength, you're going to find it in you. Nobody can do it for you but you. That's all.
Thank you for that, brother. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, guys. I think we went well over time over here. So I don't know if anyone got more question, but we would love to close the meeting.
We proud of who we are, nigga. We proud of who we are.